Whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're going to hurt some people.
Whose car are we going to take?
A Monday already. Happy Monday. Thank you for joining us on the Nikki Medoro Show live at noon Pacific or whenever you feel like. Clicking on over on our YouTube channel. It was a fabulous, gorgeous weather-wise weekend in the Bay Area. How was your guys' weekend? Did you do anything fun? Let me know in the comments. I love the community that we've created here. We're trying a new thing. Let me post it right now. There you go. Anybody that wants to join in on the show, you can. There's the link. We'll periodically put it up there. You can click in anytime you want to, obviously, during the live stream. You don't have to turn on your video if you don't want to, but we love seeing your face. All right, coming up today, we are going to talk about Tim Scott, the only Republican senator throwing his hat in the race for president. And my question to you when we start discussing this is, do you think that Tim Scott is more of a threat to Donald Trump or to Joe Biden? Do you really think that he could kind of tear away some of the African-American, the black vote from President Biden? So I'll play a little bit of a clip of him, some reaction to it as well. One, I think it was an NPR analyst said, that was a great speech that Tim Scott gave if it was 1996, not in 2023. So we'll do that. And even Trump seems to be supporting Tim Scott jumping into the competition, which to me can only mean one thing, of course. He doesn't see him as a threat. He sees Ron DeSantis as a threat, not necessarily Tim Scott. And then the weirdest question I think I've ever read, because there's no audio of it, unfortunately. A reporter asked Tim Scott a question. Is he still a virgin? And you might be asking yourself, like, why the hell would a reporter ask that? I'll have Tim Scott's answer as well. Also, in the second part of the show, we'll touch on that travel advisory the NCAA issued for the state of Florida. And on one hand, I get what they mean. On the other, is this just giving, DeSantis and conservatives more fodder to be like, look at these morons. A travel advisory for Florida. I mean, I totally understand why they said it, but I'm not quite sure if this is the headline that's really going to help. Also, we'll take it a little bit closer to home. I had a great weekend. I went to downtown Campbell. They had a great music festival over the weekend that they do every single year. And so I celebrated my anniversary with my husband this weekend. And so we went down there, and as we were walking around, there's all these shops and everything like that. And so when we discuss this, I want to ask you, what do you want to see as many, big cities, small cities and towns try to revitalize after COVID? What do you want to see in these neighborhoods? What do you think is really going to work? Because when you look at a place like San Francisco, right, and their downtown, which is a ghost town, other neighborhoods in San Francisco are actually thriving, like Hayes Valley. But it's small, it's eclectic. It has kind of like Campbell, where I was this weekend, these boutique shops, a lot of foot traffic, those sorts of things. If you're looking for these big box stores to come and save downtown, I think that you're putting it in the wrong spot. So the Chronicle actually asked readers where they want, for instance, what they want to go into that huge space where Nordstrom's is now that it's closing. And I want to ask you guys the same question. If there was an area that needed to be revitalized, what do you think would really work? And what would bring you there? What would actually bring you there? And I know, okay, get rid of the homeless and okay, if we handle that, what do you want to see there, though? What do you want to replace it with? Speaking of things that people were doing over the weekend, the Contra Costa County Fair was shut down early because of a bunch of fighting going on with, it looks to be middle school students. And so my question to you is going to be, if they're middle or high school, whatever, Do you think there should be an age restriction on being unchaperoned at any sort of public event? And what should that age be? And how did you come to that number? In the second part of the show, we'll talk a bit about housing. NBC Bay Area did a great report about kind of renting versus buying. And does it make sense? I think the number was over $6,000. There was a more than $6,000 difference between the average mortgage and the average rent in my hometown right here in San Jose. And I rent in San Jose, and the conversations that my husband and I have regarding ever being able to buy in the Bay Area kind of go the same way that a lot of people's. I'd love to buy. I love that house. No way in hell am I paying that price, and I can't afford it. And that number just keeps ticking up and ticking up. And you would think with all of the bad headlines around the Bay Area, the prices would go down, but they don't. So Leo Ho, who's an opinion columnist for the Chronicle, wrote a piece about, I thought San Francisco was a hellhole. I still can't find a place to live without so much competition. And so it's this tale of two cities kind of, or just these two opposing realities where on one hand, oh my God, there's drugs, there's homeless, it's a terrible S-hole. And on the other, people still seem to want to live here and they're paying astronomical prices. And so what's going on there? Now, Ho was the same person that wrote that article. She was the writer who went to that restaurant, American Bites in San Francisco, that was deemed anti-trans, a bunch of negative Yelp reviews. Well, American Bites, the restaurant, the owners, have reacted, have put out a statement, and I think it was all wrong because I read Ho's original article and it is horrific what they wrote about and what they saw. And I can't believe that people choose to focus on the restaurant instead of the actual people there. That's what blows my mind. So we'll also touch staying in the food realm. DoorDash is being accused of charging Apple iPhone users more for the same deliveries. And so we'll get into that as well. If anybody, and I know many of you are watching and are not in the Bay Area, but there was a horrific accident on 101 in Sunnyvale. And it's just another example of not getting out of your car because that's what led to a couple of these deaths. And then I don't know if you saw, and I don't want to end the show on a sad note, but I wanted to touch on the story of this guy who was killed in a traffic accident, I should say, a truck, because it was in the road. But he had this final act of kindness, and that's kind of what did him in. And it's so sad. But again, stay in your car, people. Just stay in your car. And if we have time, we'll just briefly mention this dad who I don't know if he's trying to buy his daughter's love or what, but spent way too much money, in my opinion, on Taylor Swift tickets. So that's all coming up. But before we get into all of those topics, please click the thumbs up button to show your support of the show. I appreciate it. Kim appreciates it. We all appreciate it. And so if you could do that, smash it. Just tickle it, do whatever. Just click the thumbs up button if you're on YouTube just once to support the show. Our super chat is also live. So for anybody that can throw us a few bucks or a lot of bucks during the show or even on replay, you can throw us, and many of you do. Super chat, a super thanks, a super sticker. The super chat is live and it goes right to helping support the show. And then, as always, the biggest way anybody can support the show and make sure that we can continue doing this is to become a monthly Patreon subscriber. And it's easy to find the link. Just go to our show's website, theNikkiMedoroShow.com, and there's a Patreon link. Our PayPal link is there. The merchandise shop is there. And so, we crowdfund this show. That's the only way we're bringing in money, is all thanks to you guys showing your love and support. And I like being here with you guys. So I want to continue to be able to do it. Okay. Let's get into a little bit of politics. So, yep, he has thrown his hat in the race. Let's listen to a little bit of Tim Scott. Now, he is a black man. So, of course, I think that race is going to be brought in. And that's fine. I actually don't have a problem with it. But here he is making a bit of his announcement.
For those of you unaware of this, when I was a kid growing up and I was failing out of school, and my nephew just told a part of the story, it was Janice's husband then, John Moniz, who caught me at the right time, who helped me survive some really hard times. And for those of you who wonder if it's possible for a broken kid in a broken home to rise beyond their circumstances? The answer is yes. And for those of you who wonder if America is a racist country, take a look at how people come together. All of God's people come together. Black ones and white ones, and red ones and brown ones, working together. Because love, unconditional love,
Okay.
binds hearts together. We are not defined by the color of our skin. We are defined by the content of our character. And if anyone tells you anything different, they're lying.
Okay, stop. He belongs to a political party that does not give people unconditional love. There are conditions. There are so many freaking conditions within the GOP on whether or not they represent you. They are not a party of inclusiveness. They just, as a whole, they're not. Now, if Tim Scott wants to go out there and denounce some of the policies by people like his likely opponent, Ron DeSantis, great, fabulous. But he's not doing that. He's trying to pretend like the platform of the GOP in 2023 is not offensive to so many Americans that they choose not to represent. Now, NPR's Aisha Rasco was kind of weighing in on Tim Scott's speech. I want to play you a little bit of it because, again, you could quote whoever you want to, Tim Scott. The reality is the party stands for what the party stands for.
I don't think it really does. I think that was a great speech for 1996. I don't know that speaks to 2023. And I do think that it's very interesting. And he's doing what the other Republican candidates other than Trump have been doing, is they're focusing on the left and all these things. But their path to getting the nomination goes through Trump. And until you go through him, and until we really see what that looks like, it just, I don't know what is the path. You have to go through Trump to get there.
And he has avoided for some time going after Trump. Really, he's been asked to this in interviews. He doesn't talk to reporters in the Capitol anymore. He will go on some other stations, get interviewed, and when he's asked about Donald Trump, he sidestepped the question there. He did make those subtle reference to not being part of victimhood politics, not being part of grievance politics. That will be his distinction. But how hard will he go after him? He does have a lot of establishment support. Senator John Thune, the number 2 Senate Republican, coming out in behind him. Other Senate Republicans that I've talked to believe that he is their candidate. And he'll have a ton of money. But does that translate in Iowa, New Hampshire with the Republican base, the Trump-loving base? That's going to be the big question.
Yeah, that's going to be the big question. And Trump himself, he welcomed Tim Scott. He wrote on his social media platform, "Good luck to Senator Tim Scott in entering the Republican presidential primary race. It is rapidly loading up with lots of people, and Tim is a big step up from Ron DeSanctimonious, who is totally unelectable. I got opportunity zones done with Tim, a big deal that has been highly successful. Good luck, Tim." Let's welcome Kim McAllister to the show. I mean, Trump putting out that statement in my mind just says he doesn't see Tim Scott as a threat. I mean, you don't, right? I mean, name calling Ron DeSantis, Ron DeSanctimonious, while one, I can't stand Ron DeSantis. It just means, when somebody is a threat to Trump because he targets them with nicknames and things like that.
Yeah. No, he probably just thinks this guy's part of the riffraff.
Yeah. I mean, all right. So let me ask you guys in the comments, how much of a threat do you think that Tim Scott really is to Trump? Do you think that he could scrape any votes from him? And do you think that he's actually a threat to Joe Biden and could erode Joe Biden's support from the Black community? Eric says, I don't think that Tim Scott is going to be a real threat because he's not going to get the nomination. For much the same reason that the NAACP announced a travel advisory to Florida. Yeah, that travel advisory. When I heard about it, I rolled my eyes like they give a crap, like they care. Do you think that Ron DeSantis cares that the NAACP issued a travel advisory? He will use it to see, look how all these woke people are targeting us. And he's just going to use it, I feel like. I really do. Yeah, Natalie, I love this. Did he just say a white lady helped me and therefore there's no racism in this country? Yeah, he's like, look at the crowd. It's like saying, I have a black friend, so I can't be racist. No. Randy says, last time I saw Tim Scott interviewed, he was stumbling through a response about his views on abortion. And like Aisha Roscoe with NPR said, you have to target the person that stands in your way to getting the nomination, unless you're all holding the water for Donald Trump again. So target him. Why should they choose you over him? The fact that he won't take Trump on tells me everything I need to know about Tim Scott. John Slade, I remember when Tommy Tuberville said blacks do all the crime in America. Tim Scott never spoke out against it. He, with the rest of the Republicans, ran from the mics. Yeah. Again, the platform. I said this last week. I wish that people that were part of these groups that have become targets, LGBTQ communities, parents of transgender children, would go to their Republican representatives and go, do you represent me? And in what way do you represent me? Put them on the spot. Be like, I have a transgender child. What are you doing to protect my rights?
Yeah.
You talk parental rights. What about my parental rights? Like, call them on the carpet. I mean, I don't live in a state like that. So, but if you do, that's what you should do. Liz says, when 45 feels Tim Scott is a threat, he will trash him guaranteed. Oh, hands down. Hands down. Although I want to give attention to Tim Scott, Nikki Haley, Asa Hutchinson, all the rest of them, because there's a lot now. I do. I want attention. I know it'll never be completely equal, but they need to speak to the actual issues. You have to be able to differentiate yourself, not just from Democrats, because we know the difference between Republicans and Democrats. What is the difference between you and Donald Trump? And if you can't name it, then you've lost. You've absolutely lost. Mindy asks, would Tim Scott change the Republican Party for the better? Good question. Can he? I think would be a better question. Is he the right leader to be able to do it? Would people listen to him? Look, I think whoever can beat Donald Trump in the Republican Party, like if there's a Republican president that is not Donald Trump, if our next president is a Republican and not Donald Trump, it's going to be very interesting to see what they will do. Do I think Ron DeSantis is going to make the GOP worse? Yes. Could Tim Scott do better? I don't know. Again, if somebody that's not willing to speak up and speak out against your political party and the former president, to me, doesn't have the backbone to do much. They're so scared of upsetting Trump's base that they don't know what they stand for. And so you're not going to inspire anybody that's, might be conservative, but doesn't want Trump. You have to be clear of who you are. Yeah, Ron says it. They're afraid of his supporters. If they had some spine, they would say exactly what they think of him. Exactly. It's not hard. It's not like I'm asking you to fundamentally go against what the GOP has stood for generations. I'm asking you to speak truth to power or truth to nonsense in Trump's case. It is not hard to say, look, his words, let's say his platform, what do you want to do about taxes, blah, blah, blah. I could support, but the man himself, the way he represents this country, I cannot. I don't want people to look at me through their fingers and hold their noses while they vote for me. I want them to be proud of our conservative values. I want them to be able to speak to people in the middle and maybe even convince some people on the left that some of my policies will work for them as well. See, I should be like a speechwriter for these people, but they can't. They can't do.
That's a scary thought from Randy. If you're a Democrat, you want Trump to get the Republican nomination. But no. See,
I don't want it to just be politics. I want a real candidate.
I don't want him anywhere near the nomination. I don't want him any step closer to the presidency. As a matter of fact, as an American, not a Republican or a Democrat, I don't want him anywhere near anything. He's bad for the country. So I don't think Democrats want him to win just so, they'll beat him. No, I think Democrats are frightened of the fact that we all thought he was going to lose once and he actually made it into the White House. Yeah. That means don't let him anywhere near the nomination. No.
All I want to bring this up. Chris writes in, Democrats had Klansmen in their parties in the 1980s. I was listening to an analysis with somebody because, the KKK was part of the Democratic Party when they were formed, and this whole historical aspect of it all. And basically, in a nutshell, what this analyst was saying was, look, there are racist people there, especially throughout history. Abraham Lincoln still had racist thoughts, even though he quote unquote freed the slaves. Like, let's not ignore the fact that there is racist history, period, in America. That it and so this analyst was saying it doesn't have to do with your political party. What it mostly is, at least historically wise, what it has to do with is your whiteness. White people losing their power throughout history have had racist tendencies, and it does not know any political lines. Now you can really differentiate yourself. But yeah, when things like that were formed, you can't just keep looking throughout history and saying, oh, well, the KKK was part of the Democratic Party, and so then the Democratic Party will forever be described as the KKK. No, people change. The GOP of 2023 is not the same GOP of the 1980s. There was another article I was reading that was comparing the platform of the Republican Party, I believe, under the Reagan administration, and so many things that platform had in it would be considered woke today. So look, people evolve, politics change, and it's just we can't keep looking at them. And yes, Harry, great point. The Democratic KKK were Southerners. Yeah. And the Republican Party took that on. They took that platform. Oh my God. There are white people in the South that are upset about the civil rights movement. Let's make that part of our platform. The Southern strategy. Remember? So it's insane that people try to look to history to determine who's racist. It's not hard to figure out who's racist. It's not hard to see that when Ron DeSantis wants to get rid of AP courses that have to do with African American studies, that there's a reason behind it. It's a flat out dog whistle to white people in Florida. Look, we don't want to educate you about what happened to black people. Why? Why do you think that is? And again, Ron DeSantis does not represent Floridians who are part of the LGBTQ community and who are black. That's it, in a nutshell, in my opinion. He doesn't. And he sure as hell won't do it as president. If there's another person that should not step one step closer to the White House, it's him as well. Mindy says, how do we fight Trump then? I don't want Trump to be president again. You vote. That's it. That's all you can do. You vote, you talk to people, you write letters. I mean, that's all you can do. It's the same thing. Look, I think it's tough. I think it's scary. I think the thing that scares me the most, not that Biden is not a good president, but that he needs to once again fight that Trump machine, the Trump cultists, the ones that will just ignore facts in favor of the nonsense that Trump puts out. And it's exhausting.
Look
it really,
at
really is
everything
exhausting.
that has happened with the January 6th commission, everything, the hearings, everything that we know. It's shocking to me that he could even have the audacity to run again.
Yeah, I know. I mean, the only thing I'm hoping for is his ass ends up in jail or prison before the election, which is possible. Right? It is possible. It does feel like when we talk about court cases against him, it's like the timing has to line up right before the election, which feeds the narrative of his political witch hunt, which again is why he's running. You think he really wants to make this country better for the average American? No, he wants to protect himself under this guise of, all of these things they're saying against me aren't true. It's just because they don't want to be president again, or you're a criminal. It's the easier answer. Harry says, Ron DeStupid, nice name, is running on culture wars. He will lose. I hope so. It's so hard because the news that we get differs depending on what you read and what you watch. It's not like there's a baseline of reality for Americans anymore. And that's the hard part. I do want to squeeze this in before we go to Kim's news because it has to do with Tim Scott. I don't know if you saw this, Kim. But a Washington Post reporter by the name of Ben Terrace asked what I would have to say at face value is one of the weirder questions to ask someone in an interview. So Tim Scott was excusing himself during this interview, but Ben Terrace said, excuse me, I have a question that I need to ask you. And he admitted that it was an awkward question. He said that he scripted himself on how to approach Tim Scott on the subject. And basically, he said, you used to preach about the virtue of no sex until marriage. Is that a virtue you still adhere to today? Ben Terrace asked Tim Scott if he was still a virgin. Valid
Why?
question?
Why
Valid.
is he not married?
He is not married.
Oh.
So Terrace explained in a Twitter exchange that the interview actually took place during a 2012 profile where Scott hinted to Terrace that he was no longer a virgin. The 11-year-old profile noted that Scott was opposed to premarital sex and his claims from early in his political career that he had never had sexual contact with a woman before. So Scott was asked if his vow of abstinence until marriage had survived his political career, and he admitted that it did not. He said, quote, the Bible's right. You're better off to wait. I just wish we all had more patience. He did not condone his behavior. He added, at the end of the day, the Bible is very clear. Abstinence until marriage, not to do so, is a sin. I bring it up because it's these values that politicians claim to hold that influence, I would say, not only their life, but I would say their political leanings. And yet he's not. I don't care. I really don't care that Tim Scott is not a virgin. But when we have been seeing, frighteningly, more and more politicians imposing their religious beliefs into their voting records, that's what concerns me. It's how much can you separate what you choose to believe in your personal life with how every American should live their lives.
Well, and I would argue if you're going to make the statement, that you don't believe in premarital sex, then you're really
the devil got him,
if
Kim.
you don't live up to it. Either you believe it or I don't care one way or the other, but if you're going to come out and say it, then mean it.
Harry's like, Scott's an incel. No, he was voluntarily celibate. An incel is involuntarily celibate. It's people that can't get a piece of ass apparently and are very, very upset about it. Yeah. Mitty says, when I vote for a president, I don't usually think about whether they were a virgin or who they have sex with. No, and I think that Ben Terrace's point was you promoted something, right? Like you made it part of the conversation. You kind of were leading with this. Nobody needed to know this, although it is nice, to counter Trump, just grab him by the pee and you could just move on a woman anytime you like to have somebody like Tim Scott say, oh my God, I had sex and I feel bad about it. So a voluntarily celibate. Yes. I don't know what the name is, but yeah, it's nuts. I don't know if Tim Scott is going to be able to make waves in this election. I just don't. I worry that perhaps he might get some attention because, again, and this is the other thing, he is the only Republican senator. He is the black Republican senator. Pardon me. I should add that because that's the point. He's the only black Republican senator. I can't imagine him not looking around, not seeing anyone, not just that doesn't look like him, but doesn't have the same upbringing as him. And then he tries to say it like it doesn't matter about the color of your skin. Really? You're not gathering anything when you look around your Republican colleagues in the Senate and don't see one black face amongst you and not think that that's not going to influence you? What does that mean? That means in red states, they have not elected anybody that looks like Tim Scott, right? That matters. It's a message. And I'm not trying to make it solely about race, but it does matter, especially when these culture wars are happening so much more. Oh, geez. Okay, let me see. Incels are the worst. Yes. Natalie says, if you try to legislate your religious beliefs, then it is relevant if he lives his own life under those beliefs. Yeah. It does matter. I think that I would want to know how much, even though they can lie about it. I mean, we saw it with Roe v. Wade. How much of your religious beliefs going to play a role in how you feel about certain issues? And then they just say, oh, it's established law. Get elected and flip their views. So it's upsetting, but we will definitely keep a close eye on this. Now, when we come back after Kim's news, we'll get into the travel advisory. The NCAA has posted a Florida travel advisory saying the DeSantis policies are hostile to Black Americans, obviously also to the LGBTQ community. Do you think it's true? Or is this, is it just help DeSantis in these culture wars? And then a little bit closer to home, we'll get into what you want to see from local neighborhoods, points of, in San Francisco. Yes, the downtown seems to be a ghost town, but there is a great article regarding other places in San Francisco that are thriving. So what would it take if you could change a city or a town or whatever? What would you put there? Is it as simple as, weekly farmers market, or is it something else? Is it retail? Is it what the retail looks like? Because I was in Campbell down here in the South Bay, which is right next to San Jose. And they had an amazing festival over the weekend. Tiny shops that seem to be thriving, a lot of foot traffic. So how does San Francisco bring that back? You guys let me know in the comments. But before we go to Kim's news, please click that thumbs up button to support the show. And now we'll have the headline.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
On the Nikki Medoro Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and we will start with House Speaker Kevin McCarthy heading to the White House today for another critical meeting with President Biden on raising the debt ceiling. Republicans and Democrats still appear far apart in negotiations, with a possible U.S. default looming as early as June 1st. White House negotiators huddled with McCarthy's team for several hours this morning on Capitol Hill ahead of the high-stakes meeting. The man suspected in the murders of 4 University of Idaho students will stand trial this fall. That is the word. A judge set the date for early October, and the judge also entered a not guilty plea during Brian Kohberger's court appearance today, as Kohberger's attorney said he would be standing silent. A grand jury indicted the 28-year-old Washington State University graduate student in the brutal murders of the 4 students last November. The bill banning abortions in Nebraska at 12 weeks and gender transitioning medical treatment for minors is now law. Republican Governor Pillen signed the bill at the state capitol today. The abortion restrictions include exceptions for rape, incest, and medical emergencies. Here in California, boaters pretty frustrated because of the boat ramps at Lake Shasta are clogged up apparently with driftwood and debris. Contractors are clearing the driftwood today ahead of Memorial Day weekend, but boaters say the driftwood problem discourages people from coming to Lake Shasta, and that affects tourism. District Recreation Officer says the U.S. Forest Service works with businesses to remove driftwood using a tractor. The Forest Service will be setting up booms to collect driftwood as well, and it will be burned then to keep it from accumulating again. You can pick up a free permit to collect driftwood at Shasta Lake Ranger Station in Redding if you so choose. In New York, Governor Kathy Hochul is criticizing county government leaders for their fierce resistance to migrants to accepting asylum seekers from New York City. Governor says any rejection of migrants is hurting their own employers, farmers, and small businesses. Hochul says migrants are coming with full financial support, so there's no burden on local communities. Suffolk County is the most recent to announce action to try and stop New York City from sending any migrants there. Also in New York, some GOP presidential hopefuls are lining up to support the man charged in the chokehold death on a subway in New York City. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley are defending Long Island native Daniel Penny, accused of using a deadly chokehold on Neely after Penny says Neely was threatening riders. Penny is a Marine Corps veteran. He told the New York Post he'd do it again if presented a similar situation where there's a threat and a danger. He says he is deeply saddened by the loss of life and that it's tragic what happened to Neely. Actor Ray Stevenson is dead at the age of 58. Yeah, Variety reports he died Sunday in Italy just 4 days before his birthday, only 58 years old. The Irish actor starred in films including all the Thor films, King Arthur, RRR, and Punisher Warzone. An Italian newspaper reported he was hospitalized while working on a film called Casino on Ischia. Stevenson began his decades-long career on TV shows in the 90s before he landed major action roles in the 2000s. And I know your day wouldn't be complete without knowing this. Yeah, Jeff Bezos is engaged. TMZ reporting the billionaire popped the question to Lauren Sanchez recently while they were sailing around Europe. And Bezos and Sanchez have been dating since 2019 after his divorce from Mackenzie Scott. They were married for 24 years. He is currently the third richest person in the world with a net worth of just over $138 billion. So that prenup will be pretty interesting. We'll see how it all pans out. This report is, as well as the show, is crowdfunded, which means we rely on you. You can find the Patreon and the PayPal links at thenikkimedoroshow.com. And of course, the super stickers and super chat is live here on YouTube. I'm Kim McAllister on The Nikki Medoro Show.
Thank you, Kim. Yes, thenikkimedoroshow.com is where you find our Patreon link. The super chat is live, and Wes started us off with a $5 super sticker. Thank you, Wes. Thank you. All right. Really quickly, though, I just wanted to respond to something in the comments before we move on. Where was it? Somebody was saying, here it is. Randy. I don't think the mention of Tim Scott being the only African-American senator is a great argument. There are currently only 2 Democratic African-American senators. Yes, you are absolutely correct. But the last time there was a Republican, a black Republican senator, they ended their term in 1979. So the Democratic Party has had a small number. I think there's only been 11 black senators in our history of a country, which, again, I think, Randy, you make a good point. You know, it's not as if the Democratic Party, although I will say in recent times, we've made bigger strides than the Republicans have. Right. That brings up my point that you can't ignore race. Yeah. I mean, every state only gets 2 senators, and we've only had 11 that are black throughout our history. That says something. Absolutely, that says something.
Can I say I like your summary top today?
Thank you. Yeah, it was a little hot in my house today. Can I just say that I got woken up yesterday? Just a side note. We had a crazy freaking weekend. It was our anniversary. We celebrated. I said I can't do math. It was our 18th wedding anniversary this weekend.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. Woke up yesterday morning, which was our actual anniversary. And it was so funny. So we have a ring on our house. And so it was like 7:00 in the morning. I am dead asleep. And the doorbell rings and I was like, what the hell? And I look through the camera, and at first I think it's my dad, because my dad always like rings it and then like steps back a little bit so you can't really see. And he's like wearing a hat. I was like, what the hell's going on? And so I get up, and my son goes and works out with my dad all the time. And again, I'm in a stupor. Like my head's just not together. And I look at my son. I'm like, did you say you were going to work out with grandpa this early? He's like, no. I was like, okay. So I go to the door, and there's this guy standing there. And of course, Nugget's going nuts, which never fails. So the dog's barking. And I just look at the guy, and I'm like, I'm sorry. I was like, yeah. Freaking A. We had started the sprinklers because it's getting hot, and I'm starting to see some brown spots, and we're trying to keep, obviously, the lawn up. And so like twice a week, we were going to do some watering. Oh my God. There's a bush that divides my house from our neighbors. And behind that bush, so we don't even see it, but it's on our property, one of the sprinkler heads, I don't know if the landscaper did it or what happened, busted. And if it was a geyser of water, and this guy's
no.
like, it's been going on for hours. I can't stand wasting water. I don't even know what my water bill is going to look like. I mean,
Somebody's gonna call the water police on you.
call the water police and let the landlord know, because I ain't paying this friggin' bill. But it was insane, like an insane amount of water. And so I get James up, who's also like in a stoop. We turned the whole water off to the house until we could figure out how to turn the sprinklers off. It was awful. It was awful. Poor landlords, they're out of the country. I don't know if I was waking them up because I don't know where they were. I was like, I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, so that was a terrible start to the day, but it was a fabulous weekend otherwise. I was in Campbell this weekend. Sandy wrote in, we're at the Campbell Festival. I was. It's called the Boogie Music Festival. It used to be called like Boogie on the Bayou. I think it was started as the Prune Festival or something like that. Anyways, it was a great, gorgeous weekend. And I guess we could touch on this before we get to DeSantis's. When we talk about what brings people to areas like Kim, you just had, what was it? The Egg Festival? What do you
No,
have?
butter and eggs day.
Butter and Egg
Yeah.
Festival. I mean, when you're there, isn't that what makes you feel like I love living here, right?
Yes,
Little,
yes.
little festivals.
It's the
think
flavor
as
of
if
the
they're in
town. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Mhm.
so there was this article in the Chronicle, and it was talking about, comparing a place, for instance, like Union Square, which can be a ghost town, right? It's losing shops, it's losing big name retail, versus other places like Hayes Valley or the Hayes Valley neighborhood, which apparently is thriving. They have little farmers markets, people are walking their dogs. And so when you're in these areas, what do you think is going to bring people back? Is it tiny little things within neighborhoods, or is it going to be something more than that? Because I don't think bringing in big name box stores like Whole Foods or another Nordstrom or something like that is really going to revitalize a place. I know that downtown's downtown, and so you have to kind of work within the means of that. But I don't think that that's going to be the answer now. I don't think that people are going to downtown to visit the biggest store. I think they go downtown or go to some of these neighborhoods because of these small neighborly things that are happening there.
Well, and you have in Hayes Valley great restaurants. Really
Yes.
kind of there are destination points in the city where you would go there for that, and so it's those smaller businesses that are bringing people in.
Yeah, so there's this writer for SF Gate wrote, Patricia's Green. I guess it's like near this public park. They saw mothers walking with strollers, ice cream, dogs, drip coffee, parklets lined with streets. And it was just this real opposing viewpoint from the headlines where, oh my God, it's a open air drug market in San Francisco. And how do you counter those competing headlines, right? Like, oh, if you visit this nice little small San Francisco neighborhood, it's great. But if you visit, let's say, Union Square, it's a ghost town. Somebody was posting, oh, I forget where they were. I want to say it was like Pier 39, perhaps. And they were trying to make it sound like, oh, it's a ghost town. There's nobody here. But it was also 5:00 in the evening on a weekday. It's like, well, no, everybody's at work right now. So what you're doing is just trying to feed a narrative, and it's not actually true. Yeah. Oh, look at all these people who were at the Campbell event. Randy says, I was at the Campbell event on Sunday. Had a good time. I was there on Sunday. We did some daytime drinking for our anniversary. It was a great time. We also rode our bikes. So it's less than 2 miles from my house. And so we rode our bikes. And so we didn't have to deal with parking or anything like that. Got some exercise in. The Lady Beatrice, I think our street festivals need a little European inspiration. Take Spain, for example. Those people know how to party. But, and I'm going to add this huge caveat, are people also scared of going to some of these events? I mean, tragically, it was in the news just recently, and maybe we'll touch on it now. You saw about that at the Alameda County, right? It was a Contra Costa County Fair. There's a huge fight that broke out because all these middle school students were fighting. They had to close it early, and now they want to have a chaperone thing. So on one hand, you want to have all these kind of small events. On the other hand, you got to mind your kids and adults. I'm not just going to blame the kids, but adults as well. I know that now is the time for all these type of festivals and street fairs and, music festivals and what have you. But if San Francisco wants to revitalize, they need to think outside the box. And so the Chronicle actually put it out to people of what should go into, let's just say, the space where Nordstrom's used to be. Some of the answers: San Francisco should encourage a massive investment in the arts in downtown, like a museum or something like that. Another person said a children's play zone and creativity center, restaurants on multiple floors, bring families back to downtown. And I like that answer because that's what, I mean, we didn't bring the kids to the festival yesterday because they had plans on their own. But if you bring families with kids, not only does it make people feel safe, right, to bring their kids, but they spend hella money. They're going to go to the ice cream shop. They're going to go to the restaurants. They're going to do all those things because they not only want to entertain themselves, they want to entertain their children. And that's the problem. And that's the problem, is that San Francisco downtown isn't very welcoming to children because nobody wants to bring their kids either to a ghost town or to a place where people are using drugs on the street. So
I'd like to see in the winter, how they have the Christmas markets in Europe?
Yeah.
I would like to see a Bay Area community do like a European inspired Christmas market. That would be really cool.
I just have to tout my own horn here in San Jose. We have Christmas in the Park every year, and it is a huge event. It's a
But
huge
is
event.
that like a market where you can go, like there's crafts and things and vendors and you can buy
Oh, I
stuff
see what
and
you're saying. I mean, I'm trying to think. There's definitely food.
like an ongoing thing for the winter
Yeah, I
season
think that
where
sometimes like fairgrounds will do that, or like where you go inside and everyone can like sell the things that they make for Christmas time. Sometimes
I've seen
schools will
craft
do that.
fairs, but I haven't
Right.
seen an actual Christmas market, which I think would be
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. But
Yeah,
again, then it's relegated to a certain time of year. How do you
yeah,
keep it going? How do you I get that tax revenue, right?
yeah.
How do you keep that money flowing to neighborhoods that really can't depend on, oh, well, during Christmas time we make money. We need to make money year round. Natalie says, I would love to see a small business pop up that specializes in takeout picnic lunches with good quality ingredients that help encourage more families to enjoy local
Yeah.
parks. That's a good
That'd be cool.
idea.
Like in Maui, they have, you can get picnic lunches if you're going, not a good idea
Yeah.
anymore, but you're going on the road to Hana. They say, stop in Paia, get your picnic lunch here. And yeah,
Right.
it'd be cool.
Like partner with these small businesses so that it's like
Yeah,
a mutually sustaining model.
yeah.
LJ writes in, so many local festivals yesterday. The wife and I took my daughter to her hometown Livermore Festival. Everyone was friendly and happy to be out in the sun. Yep. Yeah, Mindy, excellent point. Families won't bring their kids where there are druggies
Yeah.
sleeping on the street.
In Petaluma yesterday, they had the American Graffiti, where all the old cars come into Petaluma because the movie was filmed here in Petaluma. And so every year we celebrate the movie American Graffiti
Oh,
with the
that's
old
fun.
cars, and it's a car festival, and you can see all the old cars all through town through the whole weekend riding around. Kind of cool.
Yeah. Natalie says, though, you have to go to the Dickens Fair. She thinks you
Yeah,
would love it. Where's
yeah.
the Dickens Fair?
Usually at the Cow Palace, I think.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, again, then you have to travel, which some
yeah.
people don't want to do. You want to stay, like, again, it was amazing yesterday. My husband and I were stoked. I was like, let's get our bikes. Let's just ride our bikes there. It's an easy ride. It is funny, though. I mean, from my neck of the woods, it's like there's the dedicated bike lane. And this is when you talk about things that make it pedestrian and bike friendly. They have the painted green lane for the bicyclists, and those sorts of things really help make people feel safe to do something like that.
Yeah.
Kay writes in, I went to the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk on Saturday. Free hosted picnic, rides for free. I don't usually go to amusement parks. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Yeah, and it's price. Oh, the Dickens Fair apparently is pricey. Some people say it's the rent for venues is really expensive. Again, but once you have some festivals that keep going over and over again, although which is really actually kind of sad. I just received an email that one of the farmers markets near my neighborhood is closing down, and they've been there for years.
No,
And
what
it's just not.
happened?
I think it's just a money thing.
Oh.
Also, this is if anybody knows San Jose, the Cambrian Plaza, that whole area is getting revitalized. They're building a huge housing project with underground parking and a park and all sorts of things. And so I think things are getting moved out. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, we're going to rent it so that we don't have to deal with these people. So I don't know if that's the reason, but they mentioned the money. Karen says there are some events being canceled because the cost of insurance for the event and the cost to hire off-duty police officers is high. Yeah. I mean, especially when you see something like the Contra Costa County Fair, a bunch of tween and teenagers ruin it for everybody. I saw this one interview with this girl, and she's like, she didn't think it was fair that they imposed the chaperone rules. I think it was after 5, anyone of a certain age couldn't be there without parents. She's like, I didn't come here to fight. We're not all here to fight. But again, small segments of a certain demographic can ruin it for everybody else. Yeah. And it really was. If you saw the video of these fights, it was awful. It was absolutely awful. I think I have, here. I have a little bit of a news report regarding it because it's disappointing. It's absolutely disappointing. Here it is.
A moment of pause.
It made us definitely think twice. We're only going to be here for a few hours. We will see how things go, and then if we notice anything, we'll probably just leave.
Videos like this one posted on
look
social
at this.
media show
look at this.
Fights breaking out.
I mean,
it appears to be
one person punches, and then it just becomes this free for all on this kid.
Today, we spoke with a security guard who was there when the fighting started.
Oh no!
What's his name?
Just the kids started piling in, and one thing or another, there was one large brawl, and that kind of just turned into 2 or 3 large brawls, and I think there was probably, I don't know, there must have been a dozen fights at least. Large fights, we're talking, like multiple people, multiple kids, all middle school kids. And, it just got way out of hand, and we wanted to shut it down way earlier because it was just there was no controlling it. It was just
and these are kids.
Fair's always been cool. I mean, it's the fair.
What happened?
It's great, and everybody's usually come there with their family and kids and having fun. And there might be some people who might cause problem, but I've never experienced anything like that.
Jacob Ferguson was there last night with a group of families. He didn't see the fighting, but says there were crowds with cell phones out.
Look at the crowd of kids running.
His kids were in the animal area.
Oh my God, there's a million of them.
They start coming towards that way, so they locked the gate to the animals, and some of my wife and some of my kids are stuck in there, and you could see the kids running. This one poor kid said they were, he was scared.
Their visit didn't last long. Security told them to head home.
I believe they told us just to leave. And then after that, the cops came and they closed it down.
I wouldn't want to be there anyway. I would feel unsafe. I wouldn't want my kids there. And it gives me pause as my kids get older to allow them to go places unsupervised.
I'm really worried about that little boy who was getting beaten. What happened to him?
I don't know. I'm assuming. I mean, I would assume that if there was something serious, it would have been in the news report.
Horrible.
Yeah, I mean, he got his ass beat, and that's awful. And I don't want these punk kids, but where are their parents? The fair, the Alameda County Fair, the Contra Costa County Fair, any of these locations are not babysitters for your children. Either you know your kids and you know who they're hanging out with and you trust them, or you have to be there. There was another news report, I think ABC7 did it, where they were talking to one grandmother, and she's like, I take my granddaughter and her friends. I usually give them some space, like 10 feet, but I'm right there. Like, give them a little bit of freedom. But it's as if now, I can reach them by phone, as if that's a babysitter. No, it is not. It's not. You need to watch your kids.
I would say though, 7th and 8th graders, or they're saying that in the report they said middle school.
Yeah.
That's when usually you do let them start going places by themselves.
Exactly.
Right. So if Julia asked to go to a fair with some friends, I mean, after seeing that report, maybe I would think, have a pause, right? But I would say, yeah, why don't you guys go and have a good time? Because I know she and her friends aren't going to engage in that type of behavior.
Exactly.
That's what I think I know. But then, I'm maybe those parents didn't think so either. I don't know.
I mean, and I hesitate to frame it this way because I know that girls can fight too. But, maybe you have to have conversations with your son, since a lot of times, and there was a fight between girls at this fair too. So I'm not saying it's just, but it does seem to be like these young kids doing it either for clicks or social media clout, or don't know how to, resolve issues with each other. I don't know what it is, but until we can solve it, if you have children and they want to go to the fair,
don't do
you
it.
might just have to go with them
No.
longer than you thought.
Well,
You might say like, I had freedom at that age, but maybe we can't anymore.
What if other kids start fighting and your kids get caught up in the middle of it and they get hurt? Or someone says something to someone, all of a sudden your kid's a target. So yeah, that's pretty scary stuff.
Yeah, Marcus says parents too busy being their quote unquote friends, right? It's so funny that you bring that up, Marcus. My daughter always says that. She was like, she's like, you're my best friend, which is really, really sweet. And I go, I'm your mama. And like, there's a difference. Like, I love that my daughter, we're very, very close. My daughter comes to me, but I always, it's just a joke between us. I go, I am better than your friend. I'm your mother, but I'm also someone that's going to be parenting you. I'm not your friend, and I'm definitely not your bruh, which is the phrase that bruh everybody wants to say all the time. But
we're watching the Gilmore Girls, and because we've been so busy lately, we have not watched it in a few weeks. But Julia will often say, it'd be cool if we could be friends like their friends on the show, like the mother-daughter. And I'm like, that's just not going to happen.
No.
First
we're not
of all,
friends. I'm your parent.
I didn't get pregnant when I was 16 or 18 or whatever. So that there's not that, we're not close in age like they are. And also, I'm your mom. Like, I'm not like
better than a friend. I will help you out. I will support you. I'll be your biggest cheerleader, but I'm also going to be the one that's going to ground your butt. So, this weekend, for instance, and my son and me are very close, but he did not do his chores, Kim McAllister. He did not do, even though multiple warnings.
Busted.
And he lost his Switch, which, if you know my son, is like, oh my God. But I will tell you that the minute, parents, if you're wondering, I wish I could get my kids to do something, take their electronics away and everything will be done.
But
my daughter completely
don't just give it back.
Yeah, completely. Oh no, it's still, and it's funny because it's like, it's one of those, it's hiding in plain sight. So my husband and I went out and I said, I wonder how long it's going to take Dylan to find the Switch, because I hid it, but like it's in a good spot, but it's so.
Does he get in trouble then if he finds it and tries to
take
it
he won't,
back?
He won't use it. He would never use it. Like he's a good kid in that aspect. When he's grounded, if he has to do something, he does it. Yeah. I hope he keeps up like this, but yeah, I'm not worried about it. But no, he lost it. And then I told my daughter, I was like, look, if I come back and the room is not clean, you've lost your phone. So it's not me punishing you. It's you're making the choice whether to clean your room or lose your phone. So don't put it on me. And I don't want to hear the hysterics if it happens. I came home. Dylan had helped her clean and rearrange. Her whole room has been rearranged. And yay. I was like, great. You know what I mean? Like, this fabulous. Yeah. So it's, I'm not your friend. I'm your mom. And sometimes that'll work in your benefit. And sometimes you're just going to be, you're reprimanded. That's it. You're just going to be reprimanded. And that's what's going to happen. So, okay. I did want to get to this one story really quickly. That was the travel advisory to Florida. Travel advisories to me, if they give it, you can't go to this country, right? Because there's a lot of gang violence or something like that. That I understand.
Well, there's a threat to Americans that, Americans are being kidnapped and targeted or whatever.
Right. Do you
Ebola is present? You might not want to go
Don't
there.
go there. Right. Exactly. There's a war going on. You might not want to, plan your next trip there. Do you think the NCAA issuing a travel advisory for Florida because of the policies from Ron DeSantis is making the point you think it's making?
I think they're trying to make their own point by saying, look what he's doing by not allowing discussion of Black history in schools, by, not allowing diversity at colleges or at schools. He's targeting Blacks. And so he's making it clear that he's rolling up the welcome mat for diversity. And that means you're not welcome there.
It's, I do though feel like it's giving DeSantis more ammunition or, something to like kind of point to, like, see, people that like Ron DeSantis or like Donald Trump, I don't think really care what the NAACP. I was like, that's not right. NAACP are saying about their policies. If you support Ron DeSantis, then you like his policies. Does that make sense? So basically, you're just telling a bunch of people who already know that all these policies are anti-Black or anti-LGBTQ. And I think it's just giving him more things to feed his base. And I don't know necessarily that it's helpful. Lori says virtue signaling. Yeah. Yeah. And David says DeSantis will wear the ban as a badge of honor. He will go up there when he announces, like he's expected to this week, announce that he's running for president. He's going to say, like, look, the NAACP doesn't like me and their woke policy. He's just it's just the same crap. I know. I apologize. It's NAACP. I know. I was like, NCAA. That's not right. The NAACP. I don't think
the same letters, just mixed around a little bit.
There's one more. My brain farted right there. Sorry. But yeah, I just don't know if it's hitting the way that the NAACP is expecting it to, if that makes sense. And I don't want to go to friggin' Florida. You don't need to sell me on it anymore. The USA Today was speaking with a Florida Enterprise reporter. She was kind of weighing in on just all of the changes that Ron DeSantis has been making in the state of Florida. And if there's anything that people should be paying attention to, it's this kind of stuff. So here she is.
DeSantis has made a number of changes in both K through 12 and higher education. He announced a plan to dismantle diversity, equity, and inclusion programs on college campuses. Over the last couple of years, there has been a conservative push to focus more on education, and we've seen that play out with these reforms like what Governor DeSantis has implemented. New College of Florida, which is in Sarasota. That college DeSantis has targeted specifically because it's a small liberal arts college. Mm-hmm. He appointed 6 new members to the board of trustees that all lean very conservative, with a plan to carry out a conservative takeover of the college. Another issue is DeSantis's rejection of the advanced placement African American studies course. He took issue with concepts such as intersectionality and Black queer studies. Governor DeSantis's goal is to eradicate these institutions of this quote unquote woke ideology. And he's made that a huge tenet of his governorship to target anything he sees as being woke and potentially indoctrinating people into liberal views.
Yeah. And I just indoctrinating people into liberal views by teaching them African American history. It just blows my mind of all the issues that we have in this country, what they choose to focus on. Now, Chris writes, the amount of stuff they don't teach students is stunning today. You can add, Chris, in the comments specifically what you'd like to see. But, I think that it's historically we've seen a kind of an ebbing and flowing of focus in schools as you add more things that weren't, the basic reading, writing, arithmetic type of stuff. Obviously, that diverts time from other things. There's only so much time in the school day. Doesn't mean that it's more or less important. It just means that we're trying to include so much in a quote unquote education. When you start hitting high school or college, I think it's important to address certain things. And it sucks that depending on where you live in this country, your education could look radically different. And just because, certain liberal states want to focus on, let's say, African American studies or gender equality, doesn't mean that Florida is filling that space, that they take it away with anything more important. Okay, so it's not an equal exchange for subjects. So travel advisory for Florida. Wasn't planning on going there. I do have family there, but we haven't. I don't even remember. I think the last time, seriously, that I was in Florida was 18 years ago during my honeymoon. We stopped because we went to Jamaica. I'm not even kidding. We stopped in Miami for a night. I think that's the last time I went to Florida. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct. So you don't have to give me a travel advisory. It's not a place that I go to. It's so freaking far away. Like I was like, I got all this stuff. I was talking to my friend because we were trying to plan a girls trip for next year because she's going through some health issues. So we're trying to have something to look forward to. And she's like, let's go to Cancun. And I'm like, why do we have to fly all the way over there when we got beaches and stuff down on this side? But just because she's never been there. I was like, whatever. Okay. You just waste a whole day flying, in my opinion, but whatever. It's not Florida, so we're not going there. Okay, when we come back after Kim's news, renting versus buying. So, the headlines of my hometown have been crazy. So San Jose is like the best place to live, but people feel hopeless getting a house here. And do you think it is good to buy a place in San Jose or San Francisco? Salil Ho, who was the one that wrote that article regarding that anti-trans restaurant, she has an article also in the Chronicle talking about San Francisco could be described as a hellhole, but it is also hell to try to find a place to live because it's still so very competitive. I will also expand a little bit about the conversation regarding that anti-trans, and I'm putting that in quotes, restaurant. They have reacted to the bad headlines around it. I think that was a huge mistake because I read Salil Ho's initial article that started this whole thing off about the event. What was said, what was done at the event is horrific. I can't believe that after reading that article, what some people took away from it was to target the restaurant. Target the restaurant. Target the people that were there, the organization that put it on, the things that they said. But target the restaurant, I think, was completely misguided.
No.
And as someone that uses DoorDash a lot, especially for my Friday food segment, I did not like seeing this headline. A lawsuit alleges that DoorDash is charging iPhone users more than Android users. So we'll get into that as well. Let's give me some thank yous to people in the super chat. The lady Beatrice, $20 donation. Thank you so much, lady.
Hey, thank you.
She wrote, I've been in discussions where people think justices need term limits like every other person in government. I never understood why these people get to stay when everyone else has to fight for their job. Excellent point, lady. Thank you so much. And then, of course, Wes started us off with that $5 super sticker. Another big thank you to you as well. Just look for the $ in the live chat. If you want to kick us some dollars, super chat, super thanks, super sticker, all sorts of things. And again, the Patreon, become a Medorable, please. We are completely crowdfunded. And so your monthly Patreon subscription to the Nikki Medoro Show helps us out so much. So just go to the NikkiMedoroShow.com and the Patreon link is there. The PayPal link is there. And we appreciate every single donation that we receive oh so very much. All right, and now here's Kim with the news.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
Let's go back to the debt again, because now it looks like House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says it is actually still possible for Congress to pass a bill to raise the debt limit by June 1st. His comments come just hours before he's expected to sit down with President Biden at the White House. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen saying the U.S. could default on its debt as soon as June 1st if Congress doesn't raise the nation's borrowing limit. 60,000 pounds of chemicals that can be used as fertilizer or explosives have been lost during a train shipment from Wyoming to California. NBC News says Union Pacific lost 60,000 pounds of ammonium nitrate somewhere between Cheyenne, Wyoming, and Saltsdale, California in Kern County on April 12th. They filed an incident report with the National Response Center May 10th. Wait a minute, from April 12th to May 10th? The ammonium nitrate was from the explosives manufacturer Dyno Nobel, but Union Pacific says they don't think there was any criminal activity involved, and they think it was a leak with no threat to public health or the environment. What? Ammonium nitrate has been involved in both terror attacks and fatal accidents, including a massive explosion in Beirut, Lebanon in 2020 that killed more than 200 people. I don't know how a leak of ammonium nitrate doesn't become an environmental issue, but okay. All right, Union Pacific, whatever you say. I read this story next because I just want to make sure that people understand what we're dealing with this spring and summer when it comes to our streams and our rivers and the places that we go to recreate and enjoy. Search crews in Fresno County found the body of a missing 4-year-old boy in the Kings River. Authorities say the body was found almost 2 miles downstream from where his 8-year-old sister was swept away Sunday. That girl also died. Imagine losing 2 kids on the same day. It was recovered Sunday afternoon. The pair went in the water downstream from the Pine Flat Dam. That was a point where neither of them were wearing a life jacket, according to the sheriff's office. The river is closed now to recreational users due to dangers from the snow melt runoff. So that's what we're going to see: dangers in our rivers and streams, the American River. Anything close to the Sierra, it's going to be colder, it's going to be moving faster, it's just going to act differently. We have to be really careful. Republicans in the New York Senate would like to know exactly how much the migrant crisis is costing taxpayers. Senate leader Rob Ort sent a letter to New York Comptroller Tom DiNapoli calling for every dollar spent on the migrant crisis to be updated and to be made public as well. Ort blames the Democrats on the federal and state level, saying the crisis has been exacerbated by a complete lack of transparency and communication. Republican senators have introduced pieces of legislation to address the crisis, one of which would ban migrants from being housed on the SUNY campuses and the K-12 school campuses across the state of New York. There is a 5-mile section of Crenshaw Boulevard in Leimert Park now being dedicated to late civil rights leader Malcolm X. A ceremony was held over the weekend during the 18th annual Malcolm X Festival in the neighborhood. A plaque was unveiled marking the official dedication. The festival celebrates the life and legacy of Malcolm X. It includes activities associated with his life, and it features arts and entertainments as well. And now a 5-mile section of Crenshaw is named for Malcolm X. And you won't get to, if you're going to Disneyland this summer, see Fantasmic at Disneyland because it is on hiatus at least through Labor Day. The 45-foot tall animatronic dragon caught fire during a performance in April at the theme park. It has been closed ever since, and Disneyland says it will redeploy the Fantasmic performers and support employees to other spots for now. The return date for Fantasmic could change as Disneyland crews continue to assess damage to the dragon and the show's infrastructure, but at least through the summer, it will be closed. I'm Kim McAllister on The Nikki Medoro Show.
All right. Second half of the Nikki Medoro Show. Thank you. So, how much are you guys? How many renters versus homeowners do we have in our comments watching the show right now? How many of you are renters? How many of you are home buyers? And if you want to share, where do you live? So, we own a home. Well, we have a mortgage on it in Sacramento. It was our first house, and we decided instead of selling it, we would just rent it out. It's very expensive to be a landlord. Don't let anybody fool you. It's very expensive. And then we rent here in San Jose. My rent is insane. It's insanely expensive. Oh, good. So we have so many. Okay, so Randy is a homeowner. Adencito is a renter. Natalie rents. Oh, and Randy's a homeowner in West San Jose. Lucky for you. Petaluma renter, owning in Fremont, rent. Oh, okay, good. So we have a good eclectic, good. Okay. I love that. I love the fact that there's so many renters and homeowners that are in our chat right now. So if you could, would you buy, all my renters in there, knowing what you know about the price of homes, if you could, would you buy? So I'm going to play a little bit of this report by our friends at NBC Bay Area. And I would love to, I'm just going to preface this by saying, I would love to buy a home. There's also no way in hell I'm buying it for that price. Does that make sense? Like, I just can't wrap my mind around paying over $1 million for something that hasn't been updated since 1960 or something, right? Like, it blows my mind.
Yeah.
But then what are we supposed to do? How many of you renters that rent right now don't mind renting because there's just no way you're going to be able to or want to pay that? So let's play this. You guys answer in the comments while this is, again, from NBC Bay Area, taking a look at the difference between renting and buying, and they're focused on my hometown of San Jose.
Forces the sense of hopelessness facing South Bay millennials who even dare dream about buying a home in San Jose.
With the rates the way they are right now and just the cost of houses, it's just impossible.
Kevin Mahoney and his partner say it's difficult enough just paying the rent, even with two incomes, and they've pretty much given up on buying.
I have friends who are my same age, and they're still living, 2 or 3 people to a house to try and afford the rent.
According to Clever Real Estate, the average new monthly mortgage in San Jose is $9,372, while the average rent is less than $3,200. It's a difference of just under $6,200. The head of Santa Clara County Association of Realtors says he knows it's a daunting scenario for people trying to break into the Bay Area housing market. However, he says agents are still finding plenty of buyers, but not a lot of homes for sale.
On the buyer side, they've accepted where rates are, and there's still very high demand out there. So we are looking at a bit of an inventory crunch right now.
That inventory crunch helped keep prices high in the South Bay, even as interest rates climbed from 3% to almost 7% over the past 2 years.
I'm going to stop it right there. The reason I think, and you guys can let me know in the comments what you think, the reason why I think that inventory is so low is because if they sell, they can't stay. It's not as if you, and I've mentioned this many times, if you're planning on selling your home in, let's say, San Jose, and then moving to a cheaper place, great. But if you want to stay in San Jose and maybe upgrade to a bigger house, you're going to have a hell of a mortgage.
We talked to a man who bought a 3-bedroom, 3-bath home in this townhome development in 2021. And he says even at the lower interest rate, it's tight. And sometimes he has buyer's remorse.
Yeah, I do have like second thoughts. Was it cheaper just to rent, or now it's like, is it worth buying a house?
He can't imagine how new buyers are doing it. The same floor plan that he bought 2 years ago for less than $1 million is now selling for $1.2 million, with interest rates double what he's paying.
It's also the property tax and all the other expenses that come with owning a house, right?
We've been looking at moving out of the state, frankly.
Yep.
Because we just can't afford to live here.
But real estate experts say if you have the money, it's still better to take the plunge than to pay rent on someone else's property.
All right. So what do you guys think? How many of you guys are willing to take the plunge? Heather had a great point. I don't know. Owning was such a major pain. It's nice knowing that if something expensive needs replacement or repair, it's not on me. Believe me, when I was woken up at 7:00 in the morning with a busted water pipe, you know how damn happy I was that that's not mine to fix. And that's on them. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't do that. If it was my house in Sacramento, it's all on me, right? It's the water bill's on me. Fixing the leak is on me. All of that crap is on me because I'm the landlord. On the other hand, there is something to be said with, I know what my mortgage is, and it's going to be the same mortgage 10 years from now. And renters can't say that. You could literally just be priced out because it's not as if you can not everybody is guaranteed to be making more money 10 years from now from their job. So that's what's so scary. Let me read some of these. Oh, go ahead. While I'm looking at the
I was just going to say, my mom told me a long time ago that it was buying a house is, like she said, forced savings.
Right.
So that, you put all this money away, over time it's going to appreciate in value. And so, would you, if you rented and maybe paid, although now it seems like rent and mortgage payments are about the same, but if you were renting and paying less than a mortgage, would you take that money, that the difference between the rent and the mortgage, and sock it into savings, or would you spend it? Most people would spend it on life expenses and whatever. But if you have to pay that mortgage and the house appreciates over time, then when you retire, you're going to have a whole bunch of money, assets, where you could sell the house and move somewhere else where you could actually afford to retire.
Right.
so,
That's what
yeah.
Natalie's saying. My goal is to be able to buy an affordable place when I retire. I'll never be able to afford to retire here. Now, and that's true. Of course, Kim, the whole time you're talking about, oh, it's for savings, as long as there's not another housing collapse.
Right.
I mean, I always think back on how all these people on the verge of retiring.
Yep.
And then the Great Recession happened and they were
But
screwed.
I bought my house right before that Great Recession happened and the housing
Mm.
prices tanked. What was it, 2006? I
It
forget
was,
exactly when.
2008. Something
Yeah,
like
so
that,
I bought my
2007.
house right before or before that, and within, I wanna say, 6 months to a year, I was $150,000 underwater. So my
Right. But
house
you
was
weren't going anywhere.
I wasn't going anywhere. That's the
Right.
thing, is if you can weather it,
Right.
it's like the stock market. It's like, it's
But
gonna
if you
go
were
up, it's gonna go down.
65 daydreaming with your husband about
Right.
retiring, we're going to sell the house, we're going to go move wherever, we're
Yeah.
going to buy that dream house in Hawaii because our house is worth this
Screwed.
much, then you're
Yes.
screwed. And not only that, if you were planning on not having that job anymore, that's what I mean. There's nothing guaranteed. I myself personally would love to be able to retire without a mortgage, right? I don't want a mortgage as long as the house is paid for. At least I don't have to worry about it. So let's just say the housing collapse. Okay, that's fine. I don't have to pay something. I don't want to have to need the money from my house. Kay in Santa Rosa writes, if I had not bought in 1999, I'd probably be homeless. Yeah, the difference between renting, at least according to that report in San Jose, the difference between renting and buying is $6,000 a month.
I could not.
$6,000 a month in the difference of how much people on average pay for rent versus how much
Yeah.
people pay on a mortgage. That's insane. Nobody has
It's really
$6,000 just to every month to sock away. Like, no, some people only make $6,000 a month.
I could not afford to buy the house that I currently live in. and
Right.
own.
No,
I could
of
not
course
afford it
not.
today. If you told me I needed to buy this house today, I wouldn't be able to afford it
No.
because it's appreciated so much. So, and that's great for me on one hand, but all the people that didn't buy in 2006 or 7 or whatever, all those people are, now looking around going, how do I spend $1.3 million on a house?
No,
Can't do
and
it.
there's so many
Yeah.
houses, for instance, I was telling you guys I was in Campbell this weekend and there's so many cute houses. In Campbell, they can be a little small, which is fine, if you don't have that big of a family or what have you. And it's really close to downtown. So it's kind of like, oh, you'll spend time outside your tiny house. But what they're going for is insane per square foot. And Natalie, a great point. If you're a 2-income family, I don't think it's a good idea to buy a home unless you can still afford the mortgage if one of you gets laid off.
Yep.
But it's too expensive here for that. Absolutely. I look at my husband all the time. I mean, what happened over at Station X? I mean, in a good and a bad way. I mean, I had only had the show that they gave me with the income boost for a couple of years. So it's not as if we got used to it. And I always that works in radio always has in the back of their mind, I could get laid off at any time. Like,
Yeah.
not matter. And so having that mentality helped because I always look at my husband and I'm like, it could just be you for a while. And, we should be prepared for all of that. And you have to. If one of you loses your job, you don't want to be homeless because you can't afford the mortgage anymore. You have to be able to really afford the home. And I can't afford a home in San Jose. I can't afford a home with these prices and still not worry that if the shoe drops, we're not going to be out on the street on our ass. Like, I'm not doing that to myself. And I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. Al Anonymous says, people buying townhomes are dinguses. They don't even get a yard for that price, but they want the class status. Interesting. Or it's all they can afford. If I was going to look for something under $1 million, and I'm sure there'd still be a competition for it, townhomes, condos, that's all you can afford.
Yeah.
And some people don't mind not having a yard. I don't have to deal with the upkeep. I don't have to deal with broken water pipes, You don't
Yeah.
do any of that. And yet you still have a place that will appreciate. Not as much as homes, obviously. Sandy says, they say people are leaving San Jose. If that's true, why are housing prices still so high? Great question. Thank you for that. I have no freaking idea. I don't know.
Investors? Like, who's buying all these houses in the millions and millions?
People with those techie incomes. Now,
Or
again,
people who sold their house for 1.4, right? And then are buying
and
another
then can
one.
deal with another mortgage. I mean, that's the only thing I think of is that not only could you afford the big mortgage that you were paying when you sell your home to get into something in the same area, you can still afford that. So this article in the Chronicle, again by Solil Ho, she goes trying to find a place to live. She's trying to find an apartment. She talks about how she sees this one line for a home. It's a multi-story house in Oakland. Sun, quirky details, backyard with towering trees, could have a dog, which is huge, right? But there was a catch. The couch was that the live-in owner, right, was a mom and pop landlord, an anti-vaxxer, a QAnon conspiracy theorist. Apparently, if you look up the landlord's social media pages, it's all about COVID hoaxes and, you know, comparing the CDC to Nazis.
Nope.
So there were holes in the picture. See, this is the thing. She's looking at the ad. There's holes in the walls that she says could be an entryway for rats. And she's like, could I live with it? Could I live with my rent money potentially contributing to the next January 6th if there was free laundry? And she wrote, yes. Yes, I could. And so could plenty of other people because she had all this competition and did not, like, lost out on that place. She eventually did find a place where she could rent. But this is what I wanted to read you guys. She's all, I know as a decadent non-coder, I'm never going to be able to buy a home here. Instead, like a frog in a slowly boiling pot, I'll just watch the percentage of my income devoted to rent creep up digit by digit until finally it's over. And that's the saddest thing. It's, you're just going to pay more and more of your income to rent until finally you're priced out. And there's just no way of staying in an area in which you may have been born and raised. And I know when people say, oh, I was born and raised here, I should be able to afford here. Nope. No, that is not a guarantee. That is not a guarantee.
Which is such a bummer because, you know, we're talking earlier about the flavor of a community.
Yes.
And you're going to lose people that grew up there, that know about the place, that are invested emotionally in the place.
Yeah.
I see there's this Facebook pages like I Love Petaluma, whatever, about people who moved away and can't afford to move back.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
I
once
mean,
you move out of this area, there's no way you can pull that
because
off
it seems
again.
insane. It seems insane to think that you would be able to buy something here.
And they're sad.
Yeah.
You know, they're sad they can't be here. And I'm sad they can't be here because I want people who love this community to be here.
Well, and your neighborhood is then made up with a certain type of person. And I'm not knocking rich people. They come in all different stripes and stars or whatever. But it's the eclectic, you know, low, middle, high income people that make up the flavor of a place, right? Do you want to live in a neighborhood? Again, not knocking techies, but all techies all talking about the same thing. There's room for techies and health professional and tradesmen and restaurant workers. There needs to be room for everyone, but there's not. No, wages are not plentiful. They're not high enough to keep that flavor going on. Karen says, I inherited with siblings a house in Tiburon where we grew up, but we couldn't afford to keep it. That's my worry too, right? You know, you get handed down this really nice piece of property that you'd love to keep, but you can't afford it.
Or something
I don't know
that's
what we're gonna
sentimental.
look like.
It may have been
Yeah.
the house she grew up in, or you know, her favorite aunt's house where she remembers going there for holiday meals or whatever. And then you realize you can't afford to keep it and you have to offload it. What a sad story.
Yeah, it really is. And it sucks because and a lot of you are saying it's the investors, these big banks that are snapping up these properties. I mean, what are we going to do about it? Right? I mean, it's not as if someone that's selling their home is going to not get as much money as they can out of the goodness of their heart. I mean, I don't know anybody that's selling a home and is saying, you know what, I'm not going to take the top offer. I'm going to take a lower offer so that someone from a lower income can live in this neighborhood. I don't know anybody. Anybody in the comments know anybody that would be willing to do that? And I'm not going to, that's not greed. It's just, that's what people do.
I haven't known a person that has done it, so I don't have fact-based evidence.
Right.
But I have heard stories that people that write letters like, you know, I want to raise my family in this house and I grew up in a place just like this and I love the way your porch swing blows in the wind or whatever it is, that, you know, if it's a matter of $10,000 that you'll go with the family instead of the investor from China.
Oh yeah. And I have also heard anecdotally, of course, that there are homeowners that are like, I will not even consider offers from people that are not physically here, do not walk it, those sorts of things. I'm sure there's laws regarding, who you can show the house to and those sorts of things. So I don't know if we're getting to a gray area of something like that, but I would definitely, if I loved my neighborhood, but I was just moving away for whatever reason, I would want to make sure that the people that moved in, were part of the community. I rent. I love this neighborhood though. Because a lot of them are longtime homeowners. We check in on each other. The power went out a couple weeks ago. We were checking on, the elderly person next door and across the street, making sure people have flashlights. That's what you want. You don't want it to be a vacant place. You don't want it to be, a carousel of people coming in and out all of the time. You want people that are committed to being part of the community. Maybe have kids that go to the local school or, ride their bike to the nearby festival. That's what I would want from a neighborhood. And it doesn't matter if you're renting or buying, but it is up to those that own the property to make that decision of who's going to be moving in there. Oh, look. Nick writes in, my parents took less for their house in South San Francisco because they needed a quick close to move to their new property. Okay. Well, that makes sense. It wasn't as if they wanted to do it just to open it up to lower income people, right? I mean,
when I bought my house this in Petaluma, I had put in maybe, I want to say 6 bids on other properties from Pacifica to San Francisco.
Which is so hard. It's so hard.
And we kept losing. We were first time home buyers. Like there was no way. So we put on a bid. Somebody called the people that buy a house like this a dingus. But we put on a bid on a house that we thought we could afford. And it was like, at that point, it was $400,000. And it was a house, like a newer house in a new community right on the river called McNear Landing. They have no backyards. They're like a postage stamp. They have no space at all.
Yeah.
And the rooms are small and crammed together. Like upgraded fixtures though, because it was a new house. We got outbid by someone that came in with an all cash offer.
Yeah.
So my mom's neighbor was moving to Missouri and they were buying a mansion in Missouri. And I guess there's this thing called a tax exchange program where if you sell a house for the same price you're buying the house in another in wherever it is, you don't get hit with the taxes on the money that you've made from the sale of the house.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So then my old neighbor who owned this house took less from me because he wanted the exact same price that he was paying for this mansion in Missouri.
Oh, you made
out. That's how I got into this house. Yeah. And it was market value, but at that point, people were
He could have gotten more. Other. Yeah.
He could have gotten way more. Yeah. So so that's how I got lucky.
And that's how you became your mother's neighbor. So there you go.
Right.
Which is cool.
She got yelled at by my husband yesterday because she just walked in.
See,
and he wants her
to
do that. He wants her to knock first or whatever. He's like, what if I was running to the shower in my underwear? Like, what if all
no, yeah. I walk around my house. Yeah.
And
no,
like,
you
sometimes
can't.
it's not a blessing to live next door. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's like,
I don't think my parents would ever do that. If I lived next door, they would never do that unless I knew that they were coming over. I don't, and it was like, come on in because I don't want to get up and whatever, like taking my kids to go do something.
Right.
But no, I think that my parents would definitely at least give us a heads up that they were on their way.
Right.
Because I mean, there is like, oh, just come on in. Why are you knocking type of thing? But I need to know that you're on your way over. Don't just, because you be in your underwear. You could be walking to the shower butt naked. Who knows? Come on now. And that what you were talking about, Kim, is called the 1031 exchange.
Yes, that's what happened.
For anybody that wants to like, that's a thing. Like you should sell yourself if you're in an area like, who wants to move somewhere and sell their house to me and you won't have to pay any of the taxes on it.
Right.
That's a selling point right there. That's awesome. Okay. When we come back after Kim's news, I'm going to just really briefly give my thoughts on that restaurant that was called Anti-Trans. I don't know how many of you read the original article that led people to target this restaurant, but I think the restaurant made a huge mistake. I really do. I understand why they're reacting to it and responding to it and apologizing, but I don't think that that's the right thing. Because when you read the original article, I can't believe that anybody would hop on Yelp and target the restaurant instead of the actual people that were at the actual event. because it blows my mind the things that were said there. It's just insane. Also,
people are dumb and they don't look at the story.
But yeah, like read the story. And then the whole thing with Doordash, if you have an iPhone, it might give you a little bit of pause before you use it, because it is kind of BS if it's actually true. So that's all coming up on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
All right, let's start with TikTok. They're suing Montana over the new law banning the app. The law prohibits Chinese-owned TikTok from operating in the state. It doesn't allow residents to download the app to their phones. TikTok's not having it. The governor said there are legitimate spying issues involved of the federal government has already banned the app from official phones. Lawyers for TikTok say the Montana law violates the First Amendment, and they are suing Montana. The New York governor, Kathy Hochul, and New York City Mayor Eric Adams are working together now, urging the federal government to quickly authorize working papers for all the asylum seekers. The two spoke out today, saying there are thousands of farm, food services, and cleaning jobs open statewide. Adams says right now an underground market has been created where migrants are being exploited and unable to pay taxes. So they want people to get those work visas quickly. The White House is threatening to veto a Republican-led measure that would scrap the Biden administration's student loan forgiveness program. The House is expected to vote this week on a resolution to overturn the program that would provide up to $20,000 in relief for millions of eligible student loan borrowers. The White House says the move would deprive hardworking Americans of much-needed student debt relief. And a bill aimed to help renew voter confidence in Alaska has failed to pass this season. The election reform bill was sponsored by the Senate State Affairs Committee and garnered support from both parties. The committee chair, Scott Kawasaki, said it was moving forward but got tripped up in the last 72 hours. Now, some of the reforms would have been adding a system to verify signatures, allowing voters to register on election day, and tightening residency requirements as well. Authorities are looking into a video that shows a person with a parachute jump off a high rise in Santa Ana in the middle of the night. The video was taken by a security guard on Saturday. It shows the person jumping off the Essex Skyline apartment complex and then landing in a nearby parking lot unscathed. It's unclear who the parachutist is or if they could face any charges. I'm Kim McAllister on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Kim, thank you, Kim. All right, so let's get into the story we talked about a lot on Friday. If you weren't with us on Friday, there was this restaurant in San Francisco called American Bites, and they agreed to host an event. Somebody called in, said, we want to have this private event at your restaurant, and it was the San Francisco Republican Party. And they had they had sold the event as kind of a discussion of concerned parents. So they gave an interview after there was a lot of backlash from people who heard about what was discussed at this event. And so I can't imagine why anybody would target the restaurant instead of the actual people. Target the San Francisco Republican Party. So it was hosted by the group's chairman, John Dennis. He sold the event as a reasonable conversation for parents who have concerns. And so Lil Ho kind of I guess she disguised herself to go in there. I think they use the she pronouns, but I'm not quite sure, so I apologize. Put on a wig, put on some pearls, kind of tried to fit in. So Lil Ho wrote, she tried to look convincingly straight and cisgendered. That's why I mention all of this. So she put on a wig, I guess, and sat in on this event. These are some of the things that she heard. Dennis, the chairman, said, if you are a man in the Democrat Party, your highest value men are ones who wear dresses. Apparently people giggled. And then he went on to say, we appreciate masculine clothes for our men, and we're the only ones who are fighting against this. Another person gave a talk, said they're afraid of us. This woman said the American therapy community is brainwashed. She's an advocate for conversion therapy. Let's see what else. There was a photo displayed of a trans person's bare chest healing after a top surgery. They wrote this person, and then I guess they had some scars on their arms. They said this person paid the medical community to do the last self-harm to them. Most of these kids have mental illness, so they're being sterilized. Look, they showed a screen of woke messaging in schools. During the Q&A segment, one person asked, who are the powers of interest behind transgender indoctrination and what is their end goal? And one person responded, the end goal is really dark. Transhumanism, pedophilia, destroying the family, our culture, our society, Marxism. These are the things that were said at the event. And instead of targeting Dennis and the San Francisco Republican Party, these people targeted the restaurant. And so the restaurant has reacted and basically said that if they had known the content of what was going to be discussed, they would not have allowed the event. They said, we had no idea what they were going to talk about. This is Mike Saremi, who's a partner at American Bites. He was shocked by the content of the event. He said, we thought it was a fundraiser for the Republican Party. The event was not billed to the public as a fundraiser. It was labeled a parental rights night aimed at detangling the transgender narrative surrounding our children. That apparently was what it was labeled as. He said, if we knew it was going to be something controversial, we would have definitely opted out. I think this is dangerous. I think that dangerous is the wrong word. I think this was a bad move by the restaurant. It is not up to a restaurant to determine what every single event at their restaurant is. And we cannot, I think as a society, say it's okay to target a restaurant simply for doing what restaurants do, which is feed people and host events. Mm-hmm. I think that if you were going to target your outrage at something, target it at the people creating the outrageous content, not the restaurant. I don't think the restaurant should have said that at all. I think they should have said, we're a restaurant. This is what we do, because how far down that road do you want to go? Now, I guess they had to respond. This story got legs and so was in the public eye. And so I'm sure they're just saying, you know what? If we would have known, we would have. But it's not for the restaurant to know these things. It's not for the restaurant to know these things. It's up to the restaurant to serve people food and to host events. If you're going to be mad at somebody, be mad at the San Francisco Republican Party. Yep. It's awful that they would have a night like this, which I would say devolves into this type of bigoted speech. If you really were after parental rights, why not open it up to all parents? Does the San Francisco Republican Party not believe that anyone that's part of the transgender or LGBTQ community has a space within their party? Apparently not. Because you didn't invite anybody to speak, share their stories, explain any of it. No, it was scare tactics and hateful speech. And they should be ashamed of themselves. They should be ashamed.
They're not. They just say, look at that woke girl on YouTube.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Jim writes, Nikki, I agree with you, but you go back to the do you let the KKK and Hitler speak? Again, for instance, if this is a good example, if I was a restaurant owner and Adolf Hitler's PR person calls and says, hi, I'm with the Hitler office. We'd like to have an event at your house. I would know the content of that and would make an educated decision of whether or not. But if it's a political party, and you don't know what the content of their event is going to be, then you book the event. I think it's really putting too much pressure on a venue to police speech, to police events. Now, again, if it was I Hate Women convention calling up my restaurant and saying, we're from the I Hate Women group, Can we have an event at your restaurant? I'd be like, no, we're booked. Sorry. Click. But if it's the San Francisco Republican Party, I think a restaurant does not want to get into that and just be like, okay, you can have an event here.
You don't know if they're going to be talking about finances, or
Right.
if they're going to be talking about social issues, or if it's going to be parent night, right? Parent rights night, whatever.
Now, if more information was disclosed to this restaurant before the event, that changes what I'm talking about. But if it's just the San Francisco Republican Party would like to host an event at your restaurant for 30 people,
right?
Do you have room? Yes, we have room for you to host your party. Lori, exactly right. If it's a private party, they can present whatever horrible, stupid stuff they want. Is a restaurant expected to screen every presentation at a private event? The people blaming restaurants are idiots. Exactly my point. And that's why I think American Bites made a misstep. And I'm not hating on them, but I just don't think. I think they could have said just exactly what Lori wrote and what I'm saying. Look, we're a restaurant. We host private events. We cannot police speech. And I think that it's unfair, especially this time when restaurants are trying to make ends meet, for you to put that on us. If you have a problem with the event, go to the people hosting the event. The information came out. You know their names. You know the name of their group. Target them. Target them.
On weekends, we like to go to this little place on Petaluma Boulevard called Boulevard Cafe.
Okay.
And it's a little breakfast place. And the owner's really nice, and he's been there forever, and his kids all work in the restaurant, and we know them very well now, and it's cool. But they rent out their back room to the Rotary Club and to different civic clubs to have a Sunday brunch, and they have their meeting back there.
Mm-hmm.
Lord knows what's going on in the meeting. It's probably about scholarships and whatever.
Right, whatever.
But who knows? Like, did you ask to see the meeting agenda? Did you ask to see, exactly what's on the docket of what they're going to talk about? No.
And is that a determining factor of whether or not a person can visit a restaurant, right? If I'm a restaurant owner, do I want to get into this? Or do I just want to rent my private facilities to anybody that's going to pay it? Now, Trevor says once the owners found out what these a-holes were saying there, they should have kicked them out.
Yeah.
So that's a point. So and we said this on Friday, it was also a private event though. So the event itself probably wasn't offending anybody but this Chronicle reporter, right?
It was in a room, right?
Right. It's in a room. There's nobody else there. People paid like $20 or whatever, or $55 between that, $20 to $55 to be there. So again, it's, do you get involved or do you do what you were paid or being paid to do, which is serve food and host the place?
Don't you think there are varying degrees of this? Like if I say yes to a group whose name I don't necessarily recognize and they walk in clan robes, now we got a problem. Like you have to leave immediately.
Yes.
Event canceled, you're out, goodbye. Right? I mean, so unless you're back there, either it's the garb is obvious or you're back there policing what's coming out of everyone's mouth. How would you even really know?
This is an interesting comment by Eric. A no hate speech sign would be just the same thing at this point because Chris wrote, just put a no Republican sign. No hate speech, though, Chris, is not the same as no Republicans. One, no Republicans. Oh, my God, I can only imagine the backlash. But two, what is hate speech? What one person says is hate speech. Another person might say, no, I'm just exercising my free speech. I think the restaurant should stay out of it. I really do. I think that we can rise up. We can expose them, and not the restaurant, but the groups that are hosting these events. Expose the hell out of them. Talk about what they're saying. If I was a restaurant owner, there was a server like, oh my God, can you believe what they're saying? Yeah. Go leak it to the Chronicle if you want to.
Well,
that's what happened.
It's important to know that the Republican Party is doing this, and they're probably holding these events around the country, these parent rights events.
But it's not going to stop just because restaurants say no.
Is being spewed. No, but I think it's an important article to write, but I wouldn't hold it against the restaurant.
Never. So yeah, I think I just want to put a final. I think that if you should support all restaurants because it's hard for them right now, and I just think it's just unfair. It really is. Now, if we're gonna target anybody, I gotta squeeze this story in. Let's target Doordash. Now, I use Doordash too much, way too much. I've been trying to break my habit, especially for Friday foods. because it's expensive. It can get expensive. Now I have the Dash Pass because I use it so freaking much, which is like $10, and it saves us money because we can use it so much. If you don't use it a lot, it's not worth it. And I've been trying to get my husband to stop being so freaking lazy. I'm like setting a perimeter. I'm like, if anything is within this perimeter, get off your butt and go get it. Okay. Yeah. Stop it already. But apparently they're being sued. There is a lawsuit that is alleging that DoorDash charges iPhone users more than Android users. It claims that the DoorDash app uses misleading and fraudulent tactics to charge users. Apparently they did an experiment. And they ordered from the same restaurant. They're standing in the same spot. One was on Android and one was on an iPhone. Now, we're not talking about a ton of money with this particular test. It was, I think, maybe $2 or something, maybe a little less. But still, it can add up. So one way the DoorDash is charging iPhone users more than Android is through the app's expanded range delivery fee. I've seen that, and I don't know any Android. There's no Android users in my house, so it wouldn't be easy for me to do. But the lawsuit says that the fee is meant to make sure that you can get food delivered even if it's a little bit far, right? But the lawsuit says DoorDash never creates a normal delivery area for its customers. It's based, get this, on the restaurant's service level plan, meaning how much they pay DoorDash. So iPhone users allegedly are charged the expanded range delivery fee more often than Android users. So in a test, an iPhone user incurred the expanded range delivery fee, which is like $2, and an Android user did not when they placed the same order from the same location at the same time. Another way that they do that is they have all these smaller fees. We talked about, junk fees. We've often talked about it with like Airbnbs and hotels, those resort fees. It's all of a sudden you're getting it for one thing, and then all these fees add up, and it's $100 more than you thought you were going to pay. DoorDash does the same type of crap. So it's a delivery fee, a service fee, expanded range fee, and all these sorts of things. Yep. Apparently iPhone users are getting dinged more than Android. So I guess it's an ad for Android users. Huh? It's not fair. You still have an Android, right? Or did you get an iPhone?
No, I switched to the iPhone, but I had my Google Pixel for a long time.
Yeah.
And my Samsung Galaxy before that. So.
And you know what else I also heard when I was reading about this story? The blue check that you can pay for on Twitter. Yeah. Apparently, I don't know this because I don't buy it, but apparently they charge iPhone users more to buy the blue check mark because of the take that Apple's App Store takes because of it. So they pass that on down.
Can I throw a story at you?
Please.
Because since we're talking about prices and we're talking about your hometown.
Yes.
There's this news story, and this is from Cron 4.
Okay.
About the price of pizza in the United States. You're going to order a pizza, how much are you going to pay for it, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And they ranked all these cities from the cheapest to the most expensive pizza in the United States. It should not be a surprise that 6 out of the top 10 are located in California cities. All right.
Okay. How much?
Here's how it looks. Portland, Oregon, most expensive pizza in the country.
Now, did they differentiate by size and topping amount or anything, or is it just average?
It's a list of the top 10 most expensive, along with the average cost of a 14-inch margarita pizza.
Okay,
and
so
the
cheese
cost
pizza
per slice.
Okay. Okay.
Right. Portland, Oregon, number 1. It is $21.67 or $2.71 a slice.
$21, and this is a 14-inch. So I'd say that's like what, a medium pizza.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
San Jose is number 2, most expensive in the nation.
How much?
$21.59 or $2.70 a slice.
So thankfully, when we move, now I like Round Table Pizza. Round Table Pizza is totally overpriced. They charge way too much for their pizza. I like it, but I don't buy it all the time.
Yeah.
There is a pizza place. Should I give them a shout out? They should advertise on my show for as much as I buy their pizza. Is it? I always mess it up. I think it's premium pizza. I always mix it. I was like, is it premier or premium? I think it's premium, whatever. And it's decent priced, but I will add this caveat. So I love that they give you a card. And so if you get so many punches, you get like a free pizza or whatever.
Yeah.
But their sizes, so for instance, an extra large, even though it's decently priced, it's not as big in my opinion. As so it's kind of a trade-off. I don't mind it because eat pizza and then be done with it, right? It's like, just stop eating pizza. Like, my husband will buy like 2 extra large gigantic pizzas. It's like, I don't need to be eating pizza 3 days in a row, man.
No.
Have pizza and then be done with eating pizza.
No.
So but
So
I mean, I like the fancy schmancy pizzas sometimes from Round Table, and those are expensive.
So San Jose is number 2. New York is number 3.
How
San
much?
Francisco is number 4. New York is $21.48. San Francisco is $21.47.
Do you think that $20, $21, $22 for a medium-sized pizza is too much?
I don't know who's paying $21 for a pizza.
That's only a cheese pizza too. It's
Every
no
time,
topping.
whenever I order a pizza, it's well over $30, pushing 40 with a delivery fee.
Yeah, definitely Round Table will get you. I mean, you can go cheap. Like, if you don't mind, which, you can rate it. Like Little Caesars, $5 pizza. It's a good deal. If you're having a pizza party, I'm sorry. If you are having a pizza party, the only pizza you should be buying is Little Caesars. And I don't mean to do an ad for them, but it's the cheapest. And the kids just want dough and cheese and pepperoni anyway. Like, but if you want to spend, like, so Giorgio's Pizza is in my neck of the woods. All you South Bay people, I love it there. But that is a gigantic, lots of cheese, lots of pepperoni pizza. And that's a splurge for me if I'm going to get that. But if I'm just going cheapy, Premier,
I like the
whatever's
local
good.
places, not the chains. So here we have the New Yorker, or we have Mary's, which is a local chain.
Yeah.
And don't forget Old Chicago Pizza in Petaluma is famous.
There you go. Yeah, Anonymous likes Little Caesars. It's bomb. Little Caesars reminds me of like school pizza days, like just a little square piece of pizza or whatever. Costco. Nick brings up Costco.
Yeah.
They have a really good pizza and it is cheap. But then you have to go to Costco, which is a bar that I don't necessarily, you don't have to go in because they'll give it to you outside.
If you're having a party or something.
Costco is also the way to
go.
Or if
you just happen to be there. Yeah. So this list puts Seattle at 5, but listen to this. Fresno is number 6, ahead of Los Angeles at number 8. So it's more expensive to order pizza in Fresno than it is in LA. Weird.
Wow.
And then Bakersfield is number 9 and San Diego 10. So let's just say pizza in California, you're going to pay some money.
Yeah. Natalie, premium is a third of a mile from my house. We're probably neighbors. Pizza Casa Mia, I've never had, but okay. Pizza Boca Lupo is in downtown San Jose. Never heard of that. Eric says, I live practically across the street from a Mountain Mike's if I ever need pizza. No, I'm not a fan of Mountain Mike's. And the only reason I'm not a fan of them is, and I'm not saying it was them, but I got food poisoning around the time that this was years and years and years ago. I don't care. I will not eat Mountain Mike's pizza. I also will never have portobello mushrooms from Chevy's because I got food poisoning. I don't know if it was them. I don't know if it was the mushrooms, but it was all I could taste. And so I'm not having that. I do not like deep dish pizza, so I don't care if it's Little Caesars or not, Natalie. I do not like deep dish.
Oh, the Old Chicago Pizza is deep dish. And I mean, so deep that one pizza weighs like 5 pounds.
No.
You lift it up and you're like, oh, yeah, it's heavy.
Cheryl says, pizza is a gourmet food to me. I don't get cheap pizza. I like a meat cheese and a few other local places. We had a meat cheese all the time at Station X. Wasn't that the place that we had all the time?
There was a trade agreement, I think. That was what it was.
It was okay. I wasn't a huge fan of it, but Wes says there's a pizza place in Castro Valley. The owner won a contest on Jay Leno for pizza crust tossing. I forgot the name of it.
Cool.
That's cool. Mambo's in Sebastopol. Karen likes that.
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
I've not been there though.
I mean, all I'm saying is, there's some really good pizza places, but again, you have to watch where you spend your money. And honestly, if I'm going to be paying attention to my Doordash stuff, especially on my Friday food segments. Damn it, I have there was somebody that was advertising on Instagram over the weekend, this Portugal bakery that's in San Jose. It was really good. I used to date and was good friends with a guy whose family owned a Portuguese bakery. They make some really yummy food over there. I'm not quite sure if I need pastries really in my life though. I'm really trying to watch I'm going to Hawaii soon, people. I don't need more bread. Actually, I love Fred. I still eat it. I don't give a crap at all. All right, you guys, click the thumbs up button before the end of the show. Programming note, this Wednesday, I finally have it confirmed, Loretta Lynch will be joining us on Wednesday to talk all things PG&E. So big thank you to some people that donated to our super chat. Lady Beatrice with 2 donations, a $5 one. She wrote, I feel too many parents are too prone to leave their kids unattended and to their own ideas. It's never a good idea. You're absolutely correct. Although, I'll add this. You have to give your children some rope to teach them that they could be on their own. You can't just... You can't be a helicopter parent either. Thank you for the $5 donation and the $20 donation, lady.
Wow,
I love
nice.
it, love it, love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wes, also for the $5 donation. You guys are so generous. And again, please consider donating to our Patreon. Become a monthly Patreon subscriber. It is a huge benefit to the show. It keeps us up and running. Find the link to our Patreon at thenikkimedoroshow.com. thenikkimedoroshow.com. I love each and every Medorable, and we really could use some more donations. So thanks so much. We'll talk again tomorrow. Bye.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You're Sprout, like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.